You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's now time for our main event. Take a trip back in time to the golden era of the wrestling world with your host, Chris Techrold Blade. Welcome to Once Upon a Turnbuckle.
Welcome back to another very special episode of Once Upon a Turnbuckle. And yet again, we are delving behind the carnage with another spotlight episode on the superpower that is Pro Wrestling Carnage with one of their sort of up and coming young studs, as it were now, superstar Jimmy Taylor. Welcome to the show, mate.
Hello, you're making me blush.
Got started yet. So thanks for coming out. I've already complimented you on your t-shirt. So, you know we're starting on the right foot. That's all good. So there are a couple of things that I will bring up throughout the course of this once we we'll go back in time first slightly, like I like to, and then we'll talk about what's going on at the minute, because you're involved in one of sort of the hotter angles happening, I think.
Oh yeah,
in Pro Wrestling Carnage at the minute. So we'll unpack that, and we'll see how much of an angle it is, because you never know. But let's kind of, like I like to, let's roll it back, set the scene to begin with. In terms of wrestling and yourself, when did that relationship begin? When did you first discover it for yourself?
I think I was about 8. I remember watching my first episode all the way through. It was a SmackDown. I think it was the one after WrestleMania 19. I think it was a tournament for Backlash 03 to face Lesnar for the title. I remember it all inside and out. First match was Mysterio take a big man, little man, and I was like, just got carried away with it. I was a bit later getting into it, maybe compared to all the Attitude Era stuff. I was still aware of, Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H. But I think I got into time then when Guerrero, as you can tell with the t-shirt, and Van Damme, I just swept away with them, to be honest. Those two have always been my favourites, and I always stand by that. So those are probably the earliest memories I got of wrestling, those two especially.
Cool. And what place to start as well, because with myself, obviously completely different era I grew up with, and I kind of saw the genesis, as it were, of like the cruiserweights and that with Rey Mysterio coming in, Eddie Guerrero and RVD back in the early days. With you discovering it when they're there, that's really starting off at a good point.
Yeah, of course. I think with Guerrero and Van Damme being my favorites, I must have just felt froggy growing up.
Did you? How many times? Or you probably not how many times, but did you attempt a frog splash off the sofa or something?
The amount of times I got pictures of me, videos of me doing frog splashes on my sofa. I think when I had MSN when I was like 8, I think I got one doing a diving head in the midair as well. So I know those two are probably my favorites, and I know frog splash is such a good move.
Who had the best one though?
I don't know. They did a feud about that as well, and I can't separate the two, because I think at the time you got Van Damme. He comes in and back out. Guerrero's got more of that shuffle. I know, and they had a good old story about it. So I say Van Damme come off better on that during that. I think it was that IC title feud. So we'll just go with the storyline and say it was him.
Yeah, because I remember, again, you mate, if you've gone back to like the Attitude Era kind of thing, D'Lo Brown was like the WWF's version of the frog splash up against WCW, and Eddie was there, I suppose. I don't know, you can't really compare.
I know you throw like Montez Ford into that now, and he does a 180, 360, and the height he gets is ridiculous. But different eras, it's hard to compare. Sorry, I got some dogs barking.
Never work with animals or kids. I might have my kids in the background at some point, so it's fine.
No,
But cool. So obviously, let's say so you're fans of the smaller guys. Yeah, same with me, I suppose. If I could ever envisage myself as a wrestler, it was because of my stature. It was always going to be sort of that end of the scale.
Yeah.
Did they? Is that, jumping forward a little bit, I suppose, to when you eventually got in the ring yourself? Was it those guys and their particular style that kind of influenced you more?
I think it's always been more the character rather than maybe the size and stature. Like I love like the whole creative process and like the gimmick side of everything. Like, Guerrero isn't really the tallest guy. You wouldn't think that just because of the way he was built. And Van Damme on that side, he was legit. Like, he'd kick people's heads off if he wanted to. So I think it was just more they were larger than life in terms of just what they wore, what they brought to it, and just their character. And that's probably the difference of making yourself, larger than life on that. So I think it's always what I've seen more in the character rather than maybe stature and wrestling style.
Okay, that's cool. So in terms of you then wanting, you growing up watching it as a kid, when was it that you started to think seriously? I mean, I think we all grew up seriously thinking we could do it. A few of us
it's
didn't.
like the amount of days in the schoolyard, like practicing stuff with all the boys and stuff. Growing up, the amount of times you also get it from it as well, the concrete yards. But as you get older, you kind of fall out of love with it. Like, your favorites aren't maybe around as much. I think it was quite hard. I remember when Guerrero passed, and that was like devastating for me. And I think you just kind of got bored with it in general. Like, we didn't really have as much to maybe divulge into, like early days of YouTube. You still look at DVDs and videos at that point. So I think CM Punk probably got me back into it around about that 2011. I just stumbled across the pipe bomb, just like timing really, and I was like, you get to learn a bit more on the dirt sheets and all the booking and all this different side of wrestling that you didn't really know about. And then how I got back into it, how I started training was I got a friend, his name is Ash, he'll be listening to this podcast, so shout out to him, sent me a message on Facebook saying that there was a training school around the corner from my house. And we were like, oh, how funny would that be if, we tend to be like Rock and Austin and stuff and like live back to childhood. And got to the day of it, he was like, oh, I'm joking, I was just messing the whole time. And I was like, I'll give it a go, see what it's like.
Yeah.
He took our first bump and then I was like instantly hooked then, and I was just back all over it. I feel like a kid most of the time, just reliving, especially all the stuff I used to watch in the early 2000s.
Cool. So the amount of times I've heard that of anyone I've spoken to on this show, they say that first time it hurts like hell. Okay, I'm literally quoting them because I've never done this. Hurts like hell, but you go back for more. And I think that's sort of is the not the first mistake, I suppose, but do you think that first bump really is what makes it or breaks it for you? You can either take it and want to come back, or you say absolutely no, I will never do that again. Well,
I think the first couple of bumps I had to take were on a crash mat to like build up the tolerance. So I don't think many trainers are going to let you just bump flat out in the middle of the ring if you don't know how to brace and protect yourself. So I remember taking that bump and just having that, that shock through your back, and I just remember my neck was in bits the next day, like the whole bridges, handstand, just trying to do your neck rolls. Like they say to do that every day, and there's a reason for it, because if you're trying to bump cold, and especially from the off, it's very painful, but it's a nice aching pain that you get. It's like hard, like a killer leg day or something.
So, just interestingly enough, then, when you first start out, how much of that first lesson then do you actually spend? Obviously, taking bumps is the first thing I know that you really need to do. How much of that first lesson is taken up with actually that kind of stuff, or is it more sort of warm-up stuff to begin with? And
so I think my experience with all the trainers I've been under, and there's quite a few to name, I think their motto is that when it comes to maybe wrestling, you're not going there to get fit. You need to be fit in your own time. So you need to be going to the gym and doing what they require. So yeah, there's always going to be those blow up drills, a couple hundred squats, push-ups, burpees. but it's something you need to address in your own time. So one trainer could be very heavy on the cardio and the warm-up side, and others will be, you need to do it in your own time. But I think early days, any sort of beginner who's looking to get into it, it's all about the footwork. It's rolls, rope running, bumping and feeding. Like I said, everything just needs to be in big steps, creating space. I think footwork is probably the biggest thing for the beginner once you have that base of a good cardio and good strength.
Do you feel that you had a natural ability of it start again? Did you feel you had a natural ability for it at the beginning, or did it take
no, not at all.
That's all right. Let's dispel that myth then, because I always thought that, if you got to be athletically kind of, able to even do some of these things.
No, so I think with me, I used to play like a lot of football, as we all do growing up, and I'd be playing football 2 or 3 times a week, especially for uni. So cardio side, like it's not too bad. It's just the same as running around for quite a period of time. But in terms of maybe my knowledge when it comes to the gym, it was just about how much and how heavy you can lift. You don't really think about like tempos, form and stuff, especially when you're like an early teenager and you think you're just going to get big overnight and eat as much as you can.
Yeah.
So it was quite an eye opener to maybe get educated around about maybe looking after your body. Like I do DDP yoga now. I never thought I'd ever like stretch all that
cool.
as well. So it opens up so many more doors. Like I couldn't even like jump that high. There's so many things that you have to do as a wrestler in terms of being fast, being strong, being flexible, and in terms of just creating a story as well. So it's opened up a completely different way of how I see like exercise and health in general.
Sure. So that's encouraging. I think it's not that I'm past being able to do any of this stuff now. I feel the 18-year-old me would have loved to have spoken to you and got that kind of feedback back then. It probably would have pushed me to pursue it.
I wish I had that sort of feedback when I started off. I know you think if you're doing a leg day, heavy squats and deadlifts, you're not walking for 3-4 days, and somebody tells you that's not the right thing. That's not the right way to do it.
So how long did it take after first starting to train then before you had your first match? And can you remember what it was?
I started in May of 17. I would have had my debut in the February half term. It was with Welsh Wrestling, and they have shows every weekend. They do summer tours, half terms, everything if there's an opportunity. So I did a week of rumbles with them. It was just more regular weekend work. Then got to do a bit of reffing as well, and just other stuff as well around just the business in terms of just how the ring works, like just the presentation on show day, tickets, merchandising. It was just a case of just trying to get as much knowledge as possible. But February half term 2018 was when I made my debut, my little singlet, which is that's hidden somewhere.
You've upgraded since that.
For the time being.
So you weren't in it, I mean, a couple of years, but you weren't doing it all that long before then. The inevitable happened, I suppose, looking back on it. COVID came along.
Yeah, no.
It's one thing I'm interested in asking most guys that I speak to, actually. How did that impact you, especially at that early stage as well?
So I could probably retract it maybe a good 6 to 12 months before that, in terms of probably how long I've had to wait to get back into another match. So I know I had quite a difficult period of ex-partners, etc. Wrestling wasn't really a priority at the time, but getting back into it, we were looking at about January 2020. Everything was coming together, back in training regularly, just getting all that fitness back up. And I tore my knee. So my COVID probably started about 3 months before it happened for everyone else. But I tore my MCL. Luckily, it was only about 6 to 8 weeks in a brace. No need for like surgery or anything. But as I was starting to feel good and starting to maybe up my rehab, we were in lockdown. So and that was only until August now. I had my first match back for Slamdown.
Was the injury, was that a wrestling related injury, or was that just something freak?
Yeah, it's a freak accident. I bumped from a drop kick, and the individual just landed on my leg and just blew out. It was the first session back after Christmas. you know, just getting back to all the rolling around, having taken a couple of bumps, a couple of moves, and yeah, accidents happen, and like I say, it's not ballet.
Well, no, I was just about to say actually to everyone out there who, anyone watching this who still says, you know, what's the big deal? It's fake. The results aren't, you know,
Yeah.
the risks aren't. That's what I should say. So, but yeah, you're back up and running now. So let's kind of bring it forward a little bit. Your involvement with Pro Wrestling Carnage, first of all, how did that partnership start? Sort of talk about your involvement with them so far.
So with Pro Wrestling Carnage, when we got towards, especially last summer with lockdown beginning to ease, gyms reopening, wrestling schools reopening. My current school at the time was Dragon Pro in Cardiff. They haven't reopened yet for one reason to another. Hopefully they'll reopen soon. So the only school that was probably available at the time was Royal Imperial Wrestling. So that's how I met Danny Owens, met James Ellis at the time, Kai Sambrook, and Brewski Blanchard as he was getting back into it as well. So one thing led to another in terms of, you know, a lot of the guys stepping away from RIW. And then I got the opportunity to maybe get on this little Carnage bus that everyone's on at the moment. And I'm not going to say no to an opportunity. And there we are by January or February. I signed my little contract for Carnage.
Yay. So you, correct me if I'm wrong, you weren't part of the first mutation event. And there's a reason for that, I understand. A certain someone decided to put you on the shelf. And
yeah,
that's sort of bringing up to where we are now, because the nice little kind of comeback revenge story is looking to happen. So tell us about that, you and Mr. Ellis.
Yeah, so as again, about February time, I got announced as one of the signings for Carnage. All general buzz and excitement. Friends and family were chuffed to bits to join maybe a new promotion and hopefully, you know, lead them to great things from hopefully all the work I can put in for them. And you know, I did a little bit of fun on the side, just a couple of little training videos about the first show and how the winner of the eventual Battle Royale at the time was going to face Danny Owens to become the first champion. And James Ellis ruined that about a week before. I was training with a lot of the Karnage guys, and he took it upon himself to blindside me and wrap a chair on my arm. And I know the injury was pretty severe. The guys at Karnage mentioned there was potentially 3 matches for me, and a lot of pushing and shoving. I couldn't do it, and for that reason, I had to be excused from the show. So, as recently announced, depending on when this goes live, today's Wednesday, it has been announced that me and James Ellis will be going one-on-one October 30th at Pencoed Welfare Hall. So it's about time I'm going to get some revenge.
There you go. There you go. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. I will put this out there as well. There is a seat available if James Ellis wants to come on and have a chat, get his side of the story. A bit like I offered
right now that, I'm on this before him. He's got to be everything. He's got to be best at everything.
First come, first served, you know. So there we go. You know, yeah. There's a seat here for you, James, if you want to come on. I offered Danny Owens the opportunity after I spoke to Cayman to sort of give his side of the story, and that was quite fun. So yeah. So you look at, you know, obviously, is this your first official run out with Karnage? I suppose it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so this would be the second choice. This is the first. This is the debut for Jimmy Taylor. Yeah. So there's a lot of excitement around it. You know, a new promotion, a brand new promotion, and just a lot of people trying to get behind a new product. But I think outside of the excitement, you know, I'm not there just to turn up. You know, somebody, you know, injured my arm and cost my opportunity to debut on the premiere show. So revenge is certainly on my mind, not so much, you know, go high fives and clapping along. There's going to be a lot of receipts that need to be paid out to the Brilliants.
I got to admit, this was what I did love about wrestling when I was growing up, is these kind of things with a real story behind them, you know, where, you know, you got the ones that they paired up because they had real life animosity or something happened, and you could just tell it worked in the ring because it was real, you know. And I don't know what I've seen of the product, which I'm not fully versed in what's going on these days, sort of, you know, in the main promotions and that, but it seems to lack that kind of. There's plenty of drama that goes on, but not a lot of it seems real, you know, or sort of rooted in reality anymore. You can kind of see it coming a mile off. So I really do love these kind of comeback stories.
Yeah, no, I think I'm in agreement with you on there. I think if you go back to like any sort of even like Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression, if you had like a a headline match that was happening, you'd have a good 2-3 minute video. You'd have the music, all the build up to it. Like that would get you excited. And I think I agree with you now. There's a lot of that missing. Like My Way, Austin and Rock. Like you can't like the story it's got from just a little music video. And there's there's a lot of animosity between the two there in terms of two people who want to be the best and will do anything to be at the top.
Yeah.
And I think that's what me and James are going to, with two hopefully up and coming talents. And one thinks that they're going to take shortcuts by taking me out on the side, but I'm more of a fan of hard work and giving back to hopefully being that guy instead.
Well, I'll be keeping a very close eye on that one. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens in that match. So all the best with it. And
thank you.
May the best man win. Those cliche, but
I'm not. I win, lose or draw. I am there to get my pound of flesh. Disqualified, count out, roll up. He's getting one of these, and that's the only thing that's on my mind. Is
they should make it a chair match, shouldn't they? That'd be cool.
I don't get allowed. If I had a chair in my hand, I'm sure he'll be bringing one with him.
I saw the interview you did with Kai actually a couple of weeks ago. That was very cool. Yeah, so you could tell
very raw. I was licking my wounds at that point, but a couple of weeks have passed since that, so it's been pretty good just to get back in the ring, get back in the gym, and the arm feels as good as new.
There you go, 100% ideal. So yeah, maybe have you back on afterwards, to sort of talk about how it went and hopefully raising your good arm in victory. That'd be quite cool. So what lies, obviously after your match with James Ellis, what's your vision in Pro Wrestling Carnage? What have you got your sights on?
I think with what I want to do is certainly give back to maybe a new generation in the future. I feel like wrestling is maybe missing just that bit of color in terms of maybe that 80s rock and roll vibe. So that's certainly what I want to go into, is certainly be a bit more flamboyant, a bit more happy, and just putting a bit more of a touch of color on it. Like nowadays, a lot of people seem to wrestle in black matching gear. Everything seems to be quite one-dimensional, but I'm all about maybe telling a story. And there's a nice set of belts coming out soon. We've got the Outbreak title. They certainly have an eye on that.
That's cool.
Not in the match for that when they announce that soon. You've got Cayman, the heavyweight champion. He's got a great history, Celtic wrestling. I look up to so many guys that were part of Celtic back in the day, so that'll be a great opportunity to maybe go into the ring with him. Or even be on his podcast. And there are 2 tag team belts as well. If somebody wants to partner up with Superstar Jimmy Taylor, I'm happy to bring back some good old tag team wrestling.
Cool. Is there, on that point actually, is there anyone there at the minute, or let's kind of open it up? So anyone under the Karnage banner, or anyone, if you had your choice to bring in to be a partner to go for those belts, have you got anyone in mind?
So it's a good question. I'll answer it 2 ways. So if I was to answer with my heart, it would be Endlessly, because everyone just loves the guy, and everyone absolutely loves him. I don't know how he do too well. I did see his last match with Brewski Blanche. I think he got hard done by, but hopefully with a partner in his corner, we can maybe storm towards some tag team gold in the future. Outside of that, there's a great roster of people. Kenny Mantra's a really good high flyer. He's got very good style. And you got well, I can't really get in between these two, but Yer and Scare, they're a great tag team as well. I've been on Cue Balls Rambles before. There's a lot of chemistry there. I'd love to tag up with one of them in the future. But if it's a singles goal, tag team goal, I'm certainly there to take part and try to be as competitive as possible.
Awesome. So let's sort of give you an ideal, put you in your ideal, where you see yourself going. Obviously, beyond Karnage. If if everything aligned, what would be the pinnacle of your career without, I guess, steering you towards the obvious? What would you want to achieve to sort of that moment that would establish your legacy, I suppose?
I think maybe short-term goals at the moment is because I'm trying to put so much effort into this. Karnage are a new company, and I want to be one of those flag bearers that certainly lead the company. So I outside of maybe stuff in the ring, I'm trying to do myself to maybe just promote the product as well. So if I can maybe just carry on trying to be some sort of flag bearer or poster boy in that sense for Karnage, I've certainly put my heart and soul into trying to establish them to it, because wrestling's a job at the end of the day. You've got employers, bookers, bosses, etc. You need to be working your socks off, and if that's not in the ring, it's promoting the product as well. So certainly want to try and get Karnage to be the best as possible to my abilities for what I can do. Long-term goals, I did start off at Welsh Wrestling. Welsh Wrestling do a ton of shows. They could do about 3-4 shows a weekend. You've got the half terms and summer tours. If I know I've got a consistent bunch of work, daily or every weekend, then that's certainly great for me in terms of attainable goals. You've got the glitz and glamour of America and Japan, etc. It'd be great to maybe do like some sort of tour in the future. But you've got the day job as well to manage and all that. So we'll see. But certainly Karnage in the short term, and then long term, just trying to get more work. I think it's just a case of not waiting 3 or 4 weeks for booking. Let's get some more work in there. And I think that's probably the best way to think about it, is just trying to be as consistent and improve as much as possible. And you're going to do that if you have more matches.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, you look at the guys, I guess, the guys that spring to mind at the moment, you had Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy, which made British wrestling back in like the 80s.
Yeah.
Two guys that really sprung to mind that kind of got me interested in the British side of wrestling a few years ago, Will Ospreay, Marty Scurll for me, really, for different reasons. Who are your British wrestling heroes, I suppose? Are there any in particular that you still look up to, or any that were there sort of along the way that really sort of kept your interest in?
I think one that stands out at the minute for me in terms of just trying to study wrestlers and just try and get inspiration from different generations was there's a gentleman called Les Kellett from World of Sport. Yes. I think he's fantastic. I love him. You'll notice there's a couple of moves that he does that current wrestlers do. Moxley does the whole hangman into the clothesline. I'm doing the move now. You can do it for the headbutt, and you can just tell there's snippets from World of Sport that people have tweaked it into their own, and that's something I'd love to do. So Les Kellett and a lot of the guys from World of Sport are big inspiration. And maybe more modern for British wrestling, everyone loves a bit of Regal, just in terms of how vicious and methodical he can be in the ring. But outside of that, the character, the commissioner, him and Tajiri, he could do everything. And I think he's a hell performer. I think a lot of people forget that these great technical wrestlers do have a good character as well. It's so good to diverse, Daniel Bryan, for example. He can do anything.
You got quite a likeness to him as well, not just the beard, but
I think everyone up there.
It's funny actually, because a few months ago, talking about William Regal and World of Sport and that, I got to have Marty Jones on the show.
Yeah,
that was a real honor. And one thing I said to him was about Regal when I was growing up, and he was Lord Stephen Regal in WCW. I could not stand him. But it wasn't that I thought he was rubbish or anything like that. He just really got, the character got under my skin. I guess, you know, that's when you know you've got a winner, really.
And I think a lot of like, I know when it comes to heels nowadays, like there's so many heels I used to maybe hate as a kid that, you know, I just couldn't stand. And now you watch him back and you're like, I love this. Like, I love what he's doing. Like, I couldn't stand like Triple H at the time. I just thought, oh, he wins and gets away with everything. Just the way his matches were with like Michaels probably during that time, everything was like slow and methodical, and just the whole, you know, Michaels was always great for having like, you know, your heart on the plate and stuff. So if you're a heel and, you know, growing up you despise them, then you're doing your job right, I guess.
Exactly.
And it's not about being a cool heel all the time. Sometimes if you know, you want to turn the channel or go away, you're doing your job, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I when I grew up, I couldn't understand why anyone would want to be a bad guy, but sort of as I've got older, I think they're probably the ones that I appreciate the most, because, you know, you wouldn't have such a fan favorite if you didn't have a good heel. Really.
Oh no, like you said, once you start like getting more into like how the business works, and rather like as a fan, you get like the whole side of it, why people do it, and like the whole story. But then sometimes you do miss like of like, you know, escaping the reality of like, oh come on, why can't this guy just win? Give him a break. Oh, why is this guy always cheating? But that's probably why it was such a big part of everyone's childhood, is just, you know, being lost in that moment.
Yeah.
And anything could happen, especially during the times where we grew up with the product.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Say what you will about how it is today. I mean, the good thing is, I don't know, we'll get into this. This is one of my bonus questions, really. So I will, you know, withhold your opinion on it. But what AEW is doing, you know, very much harks back to, for me, if I was a wrestling fan today, you know, having grown up when I did, it would be like WCW was back. There's finally that competition, which the industry greatly needed. It was the one thing that really sort of, I wouldn't say ruined it, but it kind of killed it for so many years. As you just had one, and he could pretty much do whatever he wanted to and get away with it because he was the only option to watch.
Yeah,
I think they got to be careful now, really. So let's fire a few quick fire questions at you then. Let's steer it that way because I'll have some fun. So let's get your opinion then at the moment, WWE or AEW.
I'll always be WWE. I don't think my stance will change on that.
That's fine. It's exciting at the moment, I must admit. You know, having that competition there. How long
Yeah,
it will last, who knows? Let's make the most of it while we got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your take on the? I did ask Chris Bevan this actually. What's your take on what NXT are doing or have done with this rebranding? You know, is it any good? Is it helping them or?
It's early days because it's only about 3-4 weeks in, I think. So I think the way I see NXT is that I used to love it when you had your Sami Zayn's, your Kevin Owens, your Neville's, all those guys just breaking through at once. Like that was such a incredible crop. And I think the thing that always bothered me about NXT was more on the production. It was just, it's quite dark. It's in a dark room. It's all black and gold.
Yeah.
And I'm very much a fan of just giving it maybe a lick of paint, a bit of color on certain things. But I don't. There's still probably a lot of inconsistencies with it compared to maybe what they had maybe a couple of years prior. But like I said, it's a developmental brand for a reason. You're there to put talent through a process to get them ready for Raw, SmackDown. So I don't think people should criticize NXT in the sense of, oh, it's not as good as what it was and so on. You've got like a young crop of talent with some experienced heads, and at the end of the day, they all want to get to, you know, the bigger shows and get more money at the end of the day. So, you know, it's you people who saw, what was it, OVW and FCW were maybe the ones 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, this whole thing, it's been happening. They've given, all they've done with these young guys now is they've given them international exposure.
Yeah, they've got the pressure of live international TV now, and I don't. You should be looking at NXT as, of course, it is an alternative because a lot of the wrestling is, you know, a lot more high risk, and there's maybe some more smaller guys on the roster. But again, its purpose is to get people for the big time. they have a lot of athletes that come in through that have no wrestling experience. That's not going to be something that's going to be overnight, and it's not going to, rectify, 1.5 million on the ratings or something. It's a process, and you'll see it come out when a lot of those guys over the next 2 or 3 years, like you got Braun Breaker, was he like 23, 24?
Yeah.
See what he's going to be like in 3 years, and look at him, it'd be completely different.
I was quite, I keep up with a couple of sites. Again, don't watch it, hardly any at all, but I will keep up with what's happening. So when I knew that Rick Steiner's son was, so many of these now, these like second generation stars are coming through from guys that I used to watch. I sort of, seen him come through, and when I knew he was making his debut, and then I heard everyone's reaction, I had to watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's a natural. He certainly has got that. He has.
Yeah, there's a certain it factor about him, and I used to love the Steiner brothers.
Yeah.
Even the Varsity Club when Rick was in that as well.
Yeah.
Kevin IRS with like Rotunda.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's him. We've got Gable Stevenson. Got drafted to Raw wait till he has a couple of years. We've got the second coming of Kurt Angle there. It was the Brock Lesnar lookalike. Is it Parker Bordeaux? But I think he's changed his name.
Okay, yeah, I have heard of him. Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah, so I've seen him on Instagram and Twitter, and the guy's like a machine. But there's a lot of guys in the developmental system that you're not going to see because they've just recently signed. But just looking at the package, the potential, in 2-3 years, WWE in good hands. There's no, they're in a different league, and I'll always stand by that compared to maybe AEW or any other promotion.
Yeah, if as long as they know how to treat them right, I think there's it's easy to say there's been a lot of names that have been let go that you've got to question why. But then again, these guys have got another opportunity now to where before they would have fallen off the face of the earth pretty much if they left. And there is a lot more opportunity out there for them to just sort of slot back in somewhere else. So, yeah. Cool. Okay, that wasn't quite a quick fire. It was a quick fire question. It wasn't really a quick fire answer, but we got there.
The Wars and NXT AEW has been going on for a good 2 years now.
That's true.
So one answer to it.
All right, let's stand a few superstars up then and sort of see which way you go. So your most instinctual answer: Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair?
Hogan.
Okay, cool.
Instinct. That was just something about.
So that's quite a good one actually, because people do have quite a strong reaction to that one. You are one or the other. I don't think you can sort of sit on the fence with that one. To be fair,
I think it's easy to say Ric Flair's one of the greatest of all time, but I don't. The best wrestlers make the most money, and Hogan, he was working like two shows a night sometimes. So it's very hard to differentiate them in terms of what they were good at and what maybe not so good at. But I'll say on the instinct, my answer may have changed tomorrow.
That's fine. Their contribution in different ways is probably equal.
Oh yeah,
really. But it was Hogan that obviously I think turned that corner, didn't he? Or got wrestling to turn that corner. So.
I'm thinking of Hulk Hogan, the character, not Terry Boella, the person. When anyone shoots on it.
Less said about him, the better. He blocked me on Twitter. So
he knows he's in trouble at the minute. No one's.
So next one, Undertaker or Sting?
Undertaker.
Cool. Okay. So it would have been an Undertaker win if they ever met. I mean, it would have been too late anyway, unfortunately. Fair enough. This has become a favourite of mine actually, because I quite like hearing people's answers to this one. So your Mount Rushmore of wrestling. So 4 people who you would put up there, and I've kind of changed the rules. I think Kai, I let him have a 5th because he had a manager, and I went with that. But then I think I said in my last one, no, managers included. So yeah, 4.
Okay. Van Dam and Guerrero straight away. Those are 2 of the biggest inspirations. And I think then it would be Steamboat. I love any sort of Steamboat match. Him and the Flair trilogy. One of my favorite matches is him and Rick Rude. They go about 30 minutes an Iron Man match, and Rick Rude's my 4th person on that. So that's a straightforward one.
I like it. Actually, that's different. Yeah. No, I'll be with all of those. Yeah, Rick Rude's one. Didn't appreciate him at the time. He was one that really annoyed me, but later on in life, I I do love watching his matches.
It's the sell on the atomic drop.
I know, and it's just ironic, really, that back injury was what he.
Yeah, I might have stole that sell, but I love just the whole. He's just limping around for hours of it.
It's a bit like it's like Ric Flair's kind of flop where he walks out the corner and then just kind of face plants. You know, it's so over the top. But I've heard someone say it before, and I can't think who else. There was another wrestler I think that was referenced as well, where they have these spots where if you see them live and they don't do them, you feel cheated.
Oh yeah, of course, it's part of the show, but. Taking an atomic drop, it's a knee to the tailbone at the end of the day. There's not much muscle protecting that. So
no, exactly, it should hurt. So he's probably the one that actually, made it more realistic. It's
you could have an ounce of fat on him, no wonder it was so bad.
I was sort of growing up. Bret Hart was he was always one of my favorites anyway. But I thought he could sell.
If you ask me the question of Bret and Owen, I can't separate those two either.
I wasn't gonna. No, maybe I should introduce that one, but no, I'll leave that one for now then. But yeah. I'm with you there. I remember watching WrestleMania 10 and I couldn't pick a winner. Yeah, I just enjoyed it. Really.
Yeah, and I love the closing credit to that as well when he's just overlooking that as well. It's such a good different ending to a WrestleMania, but it's such a good story for what they go into.
That whole year, I did a show on 94, sort of quite early on in the series, and it was one of my favorite years as a wrestling fan, and the one thing that held it together for me was Bret and Owen. That whole year, that story was just perfect.
Yeah,
they executed that.
In like a diatribe of like what wrestling was, like you still got those diamonds with those two there straight away.
Yeah. So I had one in my head then that I know I'll come to that afterwards. So to finish off this is a question that I used to fire at pretty much every guest that I had. If you could have a match at WrestleMania, so it could be a WrestleMania past, present, future, whatever. You could book yourself in any match at a WrestleMania. Who would you want to be facing, and what sort of match as well?
I think it'd be a singles. I wouldn't want any sort of like gimmick to take away from it. Mm-hmm. I know it's WrestleMania, and I ain't gonna go all out here.
No, it's WrestleMania.
I'm trying to think like what would put me in the main event rather than put me on.
That's fine.
6 minutes before the end. I think it'd probably be Guerrero. Like I said, Flair. If you did something like 40 minutes with Flair at WrestleMania, it would be magical. I think Guerrero. I'd go for. I think that's my go.
What era of Eddie Guerrero would you go for?
Oh, Latino Heat, like that 2003 to the years, but
sort of his championship era was that.
That's. I just think like you've got everything. You've got some as a wrestler's on top of his game. The character is great as well. Like the whole lowrider and everything. Yeah. I think it was just such a good time when you could just tell he was genuinely happy. It would be the ultimate thing was to go one-on-one with him at Mania.
Should we see you at a future Karnage show coming in one of those?
What?
Lowrider.
My dream cars, but I don't think I would be able to drive around.
Once they do an outdoor gig or something, that'd be quite cool.
I wonder if we get one.
Okay, final question then, and sort of you can answer this in two ways actually. No, yeah, two questions in one. So as a fan, what is your favorite match to watch? The one that you would go back to time and time again. And equally as a wrestler, what's been your favorite match to perform in so far?
Okay, so I think my favorite go-to match to watch, I don't know, it's I think I want to say it's Bash at the Beach. It's either 92 or 93. It's Steamboat against Rick Rude, as mentioned there. Yeah. They do a 30-minute Iron Man match, and it's just the whole the last few minutes.
I know the one you mean now. I used to have that on video. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the last 3 minutes of I won't spoil it for everyone, but just it erupts and everything goes crazy.
Yeah. Okay. No, good choice. Yeah. No, I like that one. So yeah, your favorite match as a as a wrestler? It could either be, you know, what you feel is your best one as a performer, or the one that you hold dear as your top one so far.
I think that would be probably within the first week of me debuting. I mentioned it was a half-term tour. They did my local show in Swansea. On the day, I was the one doing all the ticket admissions, all that, but secretly somebody had their gear on underneath after you did all the tickets. So, you know, with the interval coming out of nowhere, ticket boys in a rumble.
Wow.
That was a pretty good pop, to be honest. You know, just one of the first people you see at a show is someone who's doing the ticket. So the moment like I come out and just people recognize, like, oh, was you one who did the ticket? Oh, yeah, yeah. And I know local show as well. I was around the corner from my house, the local air centre. Really good evening for that.
Cool. So maybe soon to be replaced by your match with James Ellis at Karnage from the Crypt. So, you know, no pressure.
You know, the next match could always be the best match. You never know.
It could be. You're always aiming for the better one, don't you? So, no, Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast. It's been like talking to a mate, really. It's been awesome. So, all the best for your match at the end of the month. Yeah, do come back. You know, anytime you want and have a chat. You know, we can shoot the breeze on the on the match that you've got coming up. And yeah, you know, just before I let you go, I completely forgot. Actually, anyone out there who wants to keep up with what you're doing, obviously, you know, I think they're very familiar with where to find Pro Wrestling Carnage, but where can they find Superstar Jimmy Taylor and sort of keep up with everything?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Twitter is Superstar Jimmy T. Instagram is Superstar Jimmy Taylor. And Facebook, Superstar Jimmy Taylor. I'm sure if you just type in Jimmy Taylor, I'll come up somewhere. Yeah, outside of that, just on those three at the moment. I don't think I need any more, to be honest. But then, yeah, outside of that, you know, happy to take on any sort of bookings or shows for any sort of promoters who may be listening. I got a 7-seater car, so if anyone needs a band of wrestlers from South Wales to get to a certain venue, I'm sure I can help reduce the costs on that. So that's my typical plug to any promoter.
That's brilliant. Yeah, different.
Yeah, Pro Wrestling Carnage. That's where you're probably going to see a lot of me over maybe the next few months. You know, near enough got a sellout show for October 30th, Karnage from the Crypt. You never know, there may be some last minute tickets become available. Keep an eye on out. I won't miss out. It's going to see me and the Brilliance burn it down. And yeah, no regrets. 2 weeks after that, on the 13th of November in Port Talbot, it's still tickets available. I'm sure that's going to be just as good or even better. So certainly if you want to follow all the storylines and all that action with Pro Wrestling Carnage, get to these two shows, Port Talbot and Pencoed, everyone.
That's it. So it's really gaining traction, isn't it? You know, you've waited all this time for one match, and then, you know, you may well have another one within 2 weeks, and who knows?
Yeah,
you know,
certainly a big statement for a new company to do, you know, those within 2 weeks in near enough neighbouring towns. And like you said, we're all certainly behind the scenes at Open trying to play a part in just trying to make it the best product possible. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm trying to get myself and the product over. So I appreciate the time, and thank you very much for having me on here.
No problem at all, mate. Anytime. Glad to have you back at any point.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.